Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Gemma Haley. I'm a criminologist and I'm a mother of two. And in this one, I want to get to talking about private law. What is private law? Okay. I want to talk about this because it's really important to digress matters of private law and what it can entail and what it doesn't entail, mainly. So what is private law? Private law is just used usually to solve disputes in a private manner. Now, what is this used for? This is used for usually employment, occupational statuses, and children, which is interesting. Children. So what can happen under private law cases? Anything. Do you have legal aid representation? No, not at all. Not under the legal aid private law disputes, unless you push it into public law. That'll be under digress of cases such as non-molestation orders. So injunctions, things like this, you can push that into an aspect of somebody helping you. Whether it's a private law or not, I'm not sure. All right. So what I want to get into this is that you have no representation under legal private laws, right? So children should not be under private law cases at all. No way. Why is this? Because it's more easy for a child to be taken and trafficked. It's more easily that the child doesn't get any representation at all. And what it does is it aids the other parties to take representation before you can have representation for yourself if you are a parent, because you hold PR. So what they do is they try and distribute the power of their rights through taking special guardianship roles, right, that are against you in the end initially. They can be acting like they're for you, and then what they can do is they can change their position and act against you at the end. And what does that mean? It means that you don't have the power anymore because they insisted that they was going to help and then turned against you last minute, right? And who can do this? Obviously, it's CAFCASS. They sit in private law matters. So there can be an aspect there where people are going against you, even though they was for you originally, and they can use it under a guise of, we're helping the child, or we're going for the child's wishes and needs, but that's not necessarily true, is it? Right? So everything can be obfuscated. So if I was to be an ombudsman, for example, I would get rid of private law cases straight away, public matters only, regardless whether somebody or one father or one mother made an application. They should be all public matters in relation. And the reason why I say this is because they can always transfer it from public, private, collect their evidence privately, do it in a way that's unjustifiable, unlawful, collect evidence or recreate evidence that go against the truth. And what they can do is then use it against you in a public matter when it's false evidence. And by that point, what they do is they do it so you're too late to help that child or them children. And then they place it against you as if you're the one that's the wrong, even though you've supported that child for, I don't know, a very long time. Another thing is that what they can do is they can try and stop other organisations from being involved. So if you suggest, for example, that you would like a counsellor for Joe Bloggs down the road because Joe Bloggs needs some support, and they refuse that, that's also an aspect of hindering the case, stopping the progression of the case, stopping facts from being known, okay? So what they do is they try and lie about, in the end, the relationships between the parents because they haven't allowed the counselling to take place originally. This is damaging, and it's all done under private law cases. It can also be done under public law as well. The reason why I say public law should only be taking place and private law matters shouldn't be taking place regarding children is because it actually aids in the safeguarding of the children. However, for example, you can understand that if you had two children and they swapped them onto different case files, then you would know that there's definitely a corruption going on in the state. You would then understand that if you were trying to put a child on a case that wasn't in relation to that child as well, That's also illegal. And if you have to backtrack under guise of law, and it's not dealt with in the justice system, under the judges, under the judiciary, as the judges might foresee it taking place, then it goes against the law. And that means that the judiciary aren't conducting their roles properly and efficiently. And what happens then is the children are more likely to be susceptible to harm, damage, and, possibly trafficking. Okay? So as I am understanding from an aspect of being observational and learning in it in criminology, I can understand that there's only a safety net for the children when it comes to family members. And when the family members are ignored, or the family members aren't dealt with properly, so to go straight to family members, they should have been going straight to family members, then it's a direct attack, and it's on purpose, predetermined for them children to go into stranger care from the beginning. So what it is it's a dismantling of family, and what it's done is it destroys families. It destroys family units, and who can be, within this role of doing these things? Well, it can be the LA, the local authority, social services, police. It can be solicitors as well, who are supposed to be helping the child as a special guardian. But if they're using to separate children, for example, or if they're doing it to hide truth and rewrite case files, or they're doing it to stop the children from being heard, then it all goes to show this is not an attempt to protect the child or go for the child's wishes. So it actually is against the child, against the child's wishes, against the child's understanding and protection, against the child's human rights, against the child's United Nations Conventions of Human Rights for a Child, Act 1992, signed and ratified in the UK. You should all be ashamed of yourselves if you are acting like this. And then you call yourselves child advocates. Do you know what the difference between a child advocate is and a solicitor? A solicitor is someone who aids and abets an agenda. Doesn't matter what it is, right? It goes against the child. A child advocate is somebody who supports the child's human rights. A child advocate is somebody who actually aids in the child's support, development, safety, protection of that child in every sense, educationally, okay, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, okay? That's a child advocate, okay? So if you're removing aspects of emotional support, if you're removing aspects of care for that child, if you're separating them children for no reason, they're just making it up, you're a solicitor. You're a corrupt solicitor that needs to be sacked. So let's get higher than this, the judges. So if you have a judge, you're displaying a case, telling the judge, and that judge is ignoring you, well, that's obviously wrong, isn't it? You're telling the judge about negligence, you're telling the judge about this, that, and the other, and that judge is proceeding to tell you to work with someone who is against you, who has your children. So you have to remember, if you're your own party, you're not allowed to tell anybody about these children. You're not allowed to tell anybody about the children's names, case numbers, or anything like that. You're not allowed to do that, right? So they're trapping you, okay? They've trapped you. So you can only ask certain people, and then even then it's shy high, right? You're not allowed to talk about these children. So you've got people who are against you already in a courtroom, know all about this agenda that they've created. You can't get any support because you're being told not to tell anybody. And then you've got you're being told to work with LA, who has filed against you to take your children away, right? So this is sometimes happens with people, women in general, right? Where you're a single mother, right? You've probably been through domestic violence. You're protecting your children. You might never even been in a relationship. They're still going to do it. Why? Because they are seeing you as a vulnerable. You are vulnerable to them. This is how they act against, under private law, on purpose, to separate children with families, okay? Because not all the time, the judiciary are there, which is really sad, that I've known in a lot of cases now, that I've read through case studies. The judiciary aren't necessarily there to give aid in the protection of children, they always push it back on to the LA. Even though you've digressed aspects of negligence under LA regime, and this has been a continuum since they've taken children, then what they're doing is systematically ignoring you, okay? So that's a systematic error, okay? So it's not a system itself, it's the people who run the system, or it's the people who are giving orders, or it's the people from the top down giving orders to these people to do that, okay? So it depends how high up the corruption goes, but we have to realise is that when you have children and they are not being protected by who's taken them, so let's use the LA, for example, they've lied, they've conducted lies, they've not been honest about you as a parent. Who are you supposed to go to? Who are you supposed to go to now? Because you've got the chancellors and they obviously order against you. So it goes against your wishes as well if you choose to get legal aid. So be careful when you get legal aid, because they might well go against you because of the false evidence that's been collected. That's not true. Okay? So if they've not let your children speak originally to like, you know, outside sources, if they've not allowed that and they've blocked it time and time again for over like 2-3 years, then it's an indicator that it was purposely done. Okay? So they can obstruct the aid for the child to the point where they take them away. And they've used LA discretion to do it. And, you know, you live in a local authority, so that's like your town, for example. Well, it doesn't matter if you've been there for like 10 years or 2. Like, if you've been seen out and about, they're not going to say that you've been seen out and about and there's good things about you. They're going to compile against you, okay? They're not going to compile for you. And like, so one of the other things that the LA can do is emotionally blackmail you, okay? So they can tell you that you've got to write assessments for this, this and this, or they've got to write assessments for you and then use it all against you to block you from your further rights, your parental rights to hold on to those children. All illegal. Because the LA should not have a responsibility and an aid to be able to do that. There should be a middle ground still, where that person can still have access to those children without being reprimanded, without being punished for trying to protect that child in the first place. So there's been a compile of lies. It's not stopped, and then it's continued. So it can start under private law and then progress to public law. That's be under your ICOs and your EPOs, because you can't do it under private law because they're not allowed. But what that does is it generates a gap between understanding. Well, for example, one child might have a different name to the other child. So they can hide them children, say they're on the same case number and they're not. Okay? That's another thing that they can actually do. And they can say that you don't want one child. And if they don't tell you that case number, if they're hiding something from you, that's the local authority, right? So they're telling you, the judge, to work with them. How can you work with somebody under a local authority if they've taken your children? And they've done it without reasonable grounds, elements of negligence. So how do you expect a mother to retrieve her children back? You've got no chance. There's no chance. Under the discretion, if there is a psychiatric problem, issue a psychiatric assessment privately by who they choose. But no. Or what about a capacity assessment? No, that's just to take the children. That's just to stop you from your proceedings so you can't act accordingly under PR rights for your children. So what does a mum do for her children when she knows that her children will be better off in her care all along, that a social worker's compiled lies along with the CAFCASS officer and their solicitor to then what? Engage in separating families on purpose, okay? Something's very wrong, isn't there? Because I understand now, I'm a criminologist, I understand this. So let's get to it. What do we do? Well, you go to your local MP. That's a start. Tell him from the start what's been going on. You're best off going to him straight away. You need to find out as well who's been running your cases against you under your like who's been running the cases. You need to find out where the cases are, and then what you need to do is you need to take it higher. To be continued.